I tried saying exactly what I thought for a week here, who I lost and gained. You know how people say, just be honest, it'll set you free. Yeah, turns out, it mostly sets you free from your job, your friends, and any lingering hope you had of being invited to brunch again. Hi, I'm 27, male, work in an office that sells strategic solutions. I still don't know what that means, and I've spent most of my adult life smiling politely while someone explained to me for the 15th time how crypto is the future, bro. My girlfriend, Emily, says I have the face of a hostage at a family barbecue, which is probably fair. About 2 weeks ago, after one particularly soul-numbing meeting where my boss used the phrase, circle back 6 times in 5 minutes, something inside me just snapped. I was sitting there, nodding like a bobblehead when my brain suddenly screamed, what if you just stopped lying? Not big lies, not I have a yacht lies. The tiny ones. The daily, polite social glue ones. No, I don't mind helping you move. Wow, what a cute baby. Haha, no, your podcast isn't boring at all. Those lies. I realized I was basically doing an unpaid, full-time PR job for every rando who crossed my path. So I decided, for one full week I would say exactly what I was thinking. No sugarcoating, no fake smiles, no social lubricant. If I thought your presentation sucked, I'd say it. If I thought your dog was ugly, sorry bud, Fluffy's hideous. Emily thought it was the worst idea you've ever had, which is impressive considering I once spent $300 on a smart mirror that now just tells me I'm tired and ugly every morning. But she agreed to stay out of it. If you get fired or murdered, it's on you, she said, kissing me on the forehead like she was sending a soldier to war. Ground rules, I set. No lying. No sugarcoating. No unsolicited meanness. I'm not a monster. Just pure, honest reactions to things people ask me or directly involve me in. Why, honestly? Part curiosity, part spite. Mostly spite. Anyway, here how it went. Day 1, the day of small fires. First thing Monday morning, I walk into the office, armed with nothing but my coffee, my commitment to truth, and the vague knowledge that HR's office is 2 doors down if shit hits the fan. At 9:02 a.m., my coworker Jenna corners me at the coffee machine. Hey, how was your weekend? She chirps, holding a mug that says, but first, coffee like a threat. Normally, I'd say good, how about yours? And we'd both move on, mutually pretending we cared. But not today. It was kinda boring, I say instead. I mostly watched YouTube videos about how to survive a bear attack and spiraled into existential dread. You. She blinks, smiles, walks away. Score, one awkward silence. Me, thriving. Next up, the team's stand-up meeting. Our manager, Kyle, a man whose soul was clearly devoured by corporate buzzwords years ago, asks for any blockers. Normally, the move here is silence, smooth the waters. But today, yeah, Kyle, I say. I'm blocked by the fact that half our internal processes were clearly designed by a committee of drunk raccoons. Dead silence. Then someone, I think Mike from accounting, actually starts clapping. Kyle stares at me like he's trying to figure out if I'm joking. I wasn't. Miraculously, the meeting moves on without me getting publicly executed. Lunch. I sit with the usual crew, Mike, Jenna, Priya. They're talking about the new Marvel movie. Mike says, dude, best movie ever made. Seriously, like art. Before I can stop myself. Felt like a 2-hour toy commercial, made by an AI trained only on Reddit comments. Mike looks like I slapped him. Priya laughs so hard she snorts her Coke Zero. Jenna just mutters, damn, and stares at her salad. Afternoon. My boss emails me asking if I can hop on a quick call to brainstorm Q2 initiatives. Instead of my usual sure happy to, I reply. Honestly, unless it's about doubling my salary or replacing meetings with interpretive dance, I don't see the point. He doesn't respond. End of day 1. I walk home feeling weirdly great. Like I'd been carrying a backpack full of bricks for years and finally just dropped it. Emily asks how it went. I tell her about Jenna, about Kyle, about Mike and the Marvel incident. She just shakes her head, smiling the way you smile at a dog who ate a stick of butter. You're going to be fired by Friday. Maybe, I say, but at least I'll die free. Day 2, honesty will absolutely not get you a free lunch. I woke up feeling weirdly good, like a man who just unfriended 300 acquaintances on Facebook and felt his soul grow lighter. Emily was already up, sitting at the kitchen table, laptop open, earbuds in, pretending not to watch TikToks labeled, productivity hacks you need. She gave me a mock salute as I grabbed coffee. Day 2 of no filter, Godspeed, soldier. I sipped my coffee and grunted, which is the universal male code for, I love you but cannot word before caffeine. First test of the day, lunch plans. Mike, yes, Marvel Mike messaged me around noon. Yo, Chipotle run, let's get the squad. In theory, nothing dangerous. In practice, after yesterday's, your favorite movie is a soulless cash grab comment. I wasn't sure if I was on permanent forgotten wallet duty. Still, I had rules. Say yes if you want to. Be honest if asked anything. So I said yes. We hit Chipotle around 12:30. It was Mike, Jenna, Priya, me, and this dude Todd from sales who nobody really liked, but who somehow always found his way into group chats like a cockroach, finding its way into a Vegas buffet. While we stood in line, Jenna turned to me with a smirk. So, Mr. Brutal Honesty, what do you think of this outfit? She said, striking a pose like a bored influencer. Now, let me be clear. Jenna is cool. Jenna is funny. Jenna dresses like someone who lost a fight with an Urban Outfitters clearance rack. Today she was wearing what can only be described as apocalyptic picnic chic, a huge plaid jacket over neon biker shorts and combat boots. I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. Honestly, I said, you look like you're about to lead a resistance movement at Coachella. There was a pause. Then Jenna burst out laughing so hard the old dude behind her dropped his guacamole. Dude, that's the best description I've ever heard, she gasped between wheezes. Todd snorted. Priya high-fived me. Mike just shook his head like a disappointed dad at a t-ball game. Score, one honest opinion equals one social win. But the real fire started at the table. We grabbed a corner booth and started eating. Todd, between bites of a comically oversized burrito, turned to me and said, So, what do you think of the Office Fantasy Football League? Now, full disclosure. I hate fantasy football. I hate the smug trash talk, the endless stat nerding, the fact that grown adults are willing to scream at each other over a 19-year-old third-string running back's hamstring. So I told the truth. I think it's just a socially acceptable way for mediocre men to pretend they're NFL general managers because their real lives are too boring to matter. Silence. The entire table froze. Even Jenna, who had just survived my fashion roast, looked like I punched her salad. Big Mike, who ran our fantasy league, slowly set his burrito down. His face went from amused coworker to witness at a war crime. You're kidding, right? He said, laughing a little too hard. Nope, I said, popping a tortilla chip into my mouth. Zero cap, bro. Mike's nostrils flared like an angry horse. He pushed back his chair and stood up. Guess you're too cool for all of us pathetic losers, he said. Enjoy your lunch. And just like that, he walked out. No Marvel debates. No awkward jokes. Just gone. Aftermath. Priya looked at me and said, Well, you weren't wrong. Todd mumbled something about some people being sensitive. Jenna just grinned and said, Remind me never to ask you if I'm good at karaoke. Honestly, I felt a little bad. Mike was a decent dude. Yeah, he could be annoying, but he genuinely cared about dumb stuff like fantasy football. It made him happy. And I nuked it. For what? A joke? A truth? Was this what being honest meant? Tallying up the casualties like a cold warlord of keeping it real. End of workday. Mike didn't reply to any group texts. He left early for a meeting. When I got home, Emily was baking banana bread, which she only did when she was either very happy or secretly plotting something. She listened to my recap, nodding like a therapist with a really good gossip addiction. You know, she said, pulling a loaf from the oven, maybe truth-telling isn't about being a blunt instrument. Maybe it's about knowing when it matters. That's deep, I said. You read that on a mug. She threw a pot holder at me. Personal tally after day 2. 1 new mortal enemy, Mike. 2 unexpected allies, Jenna, Priya. 1 coworker still weirdly indifferent, Todd. 3, 212 calories from burritos and regret. Feeling slightly less smug. Slightly more aware that truth and jerk can start to blur real fast. Day 3, turns out, Brutal Honesty has a fan club and a price. I'll admit, when I woke up on day 3, part of me was already questioning my life choices. Another part of me, the stubborn, petty part, reminded me I was already halfway committed to this experiment, and you can't just back out because someone got butthurt about fantasy football. Also, Emily made pancakes. You can't bail on a life philosophy when there's pancakes. It's a rule. Morning at work. I got into the office trying to keep a low profile. Mike still hadn't answered any group texts. Jenna waved at me like nothing happened, but I could feel a tension, the way you feel a spider somewhere in the room but can't find it. I ducked into my cubicle and tried to bury myself in emails. Round 10:30, Priya swung by carrying 2 coffees. Without asking, she set one down on my desk. Black with 2 sugars, right? I nodded, a little stunned. She sat on the edge of my desk like she owned the place. You know, she said, everyone's acting like you stabbed Mike in the parking lot, but honestly. She leaned closer, dropped her voice. Someone needed to say it. That man thinks fantasy football is a personality trait. I blinked. You're not mad? I asked. Priya grinned. Mad? Dude, I want you to come to my family reunion and tell my aunt her vegan gluten-free cheesecake tastes like wet drywall. We laughed, actual, genuine, not work-mandated laughter. Priya sipped her coffee and shrugged. Look, honesty's rough. It's like sandpaper. But sometimes you need sandpaper, right? Otherwise, you end up covered in splinters. That's weirdly profound, I said. I know, she said. I'm wasted on this place. For the first time since Monday, I felt a little less like a social war criminal. Maybe this experiment wasn't a total dumpster fire after all. But of course, the universe hates balance. Evening at home. After work, Emily was in the living room, assembling something that looked suspiciously like a medieval torture device, but was apparently a DIY pottery wheel. She had been into pottery for about a month now, which, in Emily time, meant she had already bought $400 worth of supplies, followed 15 pottery TikTokers, scheduled a booth at the local artisanal makers market for August. She was beaming as she smeared clay around like a tiny, enthusiastic gremlin. Look, she said, holding up a lumpy gray mass. It's going to be a mug. Now, let me just say, I love Emily. I genuinely do. What she was holding looked less like a mug and more like something you'd find at a crime scene and quietly step over. My brain, the honest brain, the no-filter brain fired before my heart could catch up. It looks like if a sad meatball got divorced. There was a long pause. Emily slowly set the mug back down. Her face didn't crumple. She didn't yell. She just stared at me, like I was a stranger who just spat in her coffee. Cool, she said finally, voice flat. Good to know. And she walked out of the room. Cue immediate regret. I sat there, staring at the tortured meatball of clay, feeling like the world's biggest idiot. It was supposed to be funny. It was funny. But not to her. Not now. Not after she'd poured her whole heart into this weird, messy little project. Later that night, I found her in the bedroom, reading. I leaned against the doorframe awkwardly. Hey, I said. I'm sorry. She didn't look up. Don't be sorry. You were honest. That's your thing now, right? Oof. Yeah, but honesty doesn't have to be mean, I said. Silence. Then quietly. I know the mug looks like garbage, she said, but it made me happy. I crossed the room and sat beside her. I love that it makes you happy, I said, even if it looks like it's been through a custody battle. She laughed a tiny, grudging laugh. Progress. She sighed. There's a difference between being honest and being kind. I'm learning that, I said, the hard way. We sat there for a while, the weight of the day settling around us like dust. Finally, she closed her book and said, Help me paint the meatball tomorrow. Only if I can give it tiny, angry eyes. Deal. Personal tally after day 3. 1 unexpected friendship boost, Priya. 1 relationship bruised, but not broken, Emily. 1 future art project involving an aggressively ugly mug. Feeling a little wiser, a little sadder, a little more determined not to be a total ass just for the sake of truth. Day 4, honesty plus free booze equals disaster, and maybe a little magic. When you hear mandatory office party, you expect 3 things. Lukewarm finger food. Small talk that makes you long for the sweet release of death. One guy getting way too drunk and telling the boss what he really thinks. Tonight, thanks to my new commitment to brutal honesty, I was fully prepared to be that guy TM. The event was at a rooftop bar downtown. The kind of place that serves $15 cocktails with names like Whispered Regret and Gatsby's Mistake. I showed up around 7 p.m. Dress code, business casual, which apparently meant Mike wore a full suit. He was still giving me the cold shoulder, while Todd showed up in cargo shorts and flip-flops. First drink, whiskey sour. Second drink, whatever Priya ordered because she insisted you can't be cynical and sober at the same time. First casualty, the VP of marketing. We were making the rounds when I found myself cornered by Mr. Sanders, the VP. Tall, sweaty man who smelled like Axe body spray and capitalism. So, he boomed. How do you like working here, kid? Standard answer would be, oh, I love it. Great team, exciting opportunities. What I said instead. It's like Stockholm Syndrome, but with slightly better dental insurance. For a second, I thought he might have a stroke. Then, to my shock, the man laughed. Deep, real, full-body laugh. Kid, you're all right, he said, clapping me on the back so hard I almost faceplanted into the shrimp cocktail. Second casualty, Mike again. Later, Mike cornered me near the bar. So, he said, clearly tipsy, still think fantasy football is for losers. I sighed. I think caring about fantasy football is fine, I said. I just don't think it should be your whole personality. Mike blinked, and to my amazement, snorted. Fair, he said. Maybe I need a hobby that doesn't involve screaming at teenagers on ESPN. Was that growth? Was Mike evolving like a Pokemon after emotional trauma? Progress. Third casualty, myself. At one point, a very drunk Jenna tried to set me up with her friend Lauren. She's like super hot and super into sarcastic guys, Jenna slurred. Lauren arrived. Lauren was, indeed, gorgeous. Lauren also immediately launched into a 20-minute monologue about her spiritual connection with her houseplants. I nodded politely for 5 minutes. Then, in the spirit of honesty, I said, I think your fern probably isn't your soulmate. It's just vibing. She stared at me like I'd kicked a puppy. Jenna hissed, Dude, filter, you need a damn filter. I shrugged. Rules are rules. By the end of the night, Mike bought me a drink, for honesty, even if you're a jackass. Mr. Sanders winked at me across the room. Jenna threatened to revoke my wingman privileges forever. I somehow avoided singing karaoke, which I consider a major life win. Day 5, the weirdest compliment of my life. Woke up slightly hungover, but not dead. When? Got into the office around 10 a.m., still riding the weird energy from last night. Round lunchtime, I got a Slack message from Helen, one of the higher-ups in operations. Not someone I usually interacted with, unless you count forced smiles in the elevator. Hey, can you pop into my office for a minute? Oh great, I thought. Here it comes, the pink slip of truth. Surprise, it wasn't an execution. Helen gestured for me to sit. So, she said, smiling like a cat who knew where the mice were hidden. I heard some interesting stories about you at the party. I winced. I swear, I didn't break the ice sculpture. She laughed. No, not that, I mean, you're honest, direct, unfiltered. I braced for impact. And frankly, she continued, that's refreshing. We need people who aren't afraid to say what they really think. Otherwise, we just get yes men who let bad ideas rot from the inside. Wait. Was I being praised? Helen leaned forward. We're starting a new project next quarter. High stakes, a lot of moving parts. We need someone who's not afraid to call out BS. I want you on the team. My brain short-circuited. It's me, I said brilliantly. Yes, you, she said, smiling. You're not perfect, but you're real, and that's rare. Walking back to my desk. It hit me. For the first time in my entire miserable office existence. I was getting noticed not because I sucked up. Not because I was the loudest bro at the table. But because I was real. Rough. Honest. Unfiltered. Sure, it cost me. Sure, I'd pissed off Mike, Jenna's friend Lauren, and probably half the HR department. But it also gained me something I didn't even know I wanted. Respect. The real kind. Not the forced LinkedIn kind. Personal tally after days for 5. One enemy turned frenemy, Mike. One unexpected promotion track, Helen's project. One angry plant psychic, Lauren. 0 karaoke performances, thank the gods. Feeling. Bruised. Buzzed. Little proud. Day 6, ghosts of friendships past. Saturday morning. Normally, weekends were my time to recharge my introvert batteries. Video games, bad coffee, pretending laundry didn't exist. But fate and Facebook had other plans. At about 11 a.m., I got a message from Brian. Brian, my old college roommate. Brian, the guy who once tried to microwave a frozen pizza still in the box because it'll save time. We hadn't really talked in, 2 years? Life happens. Jobs, relationships, moving cities. You drift. It's like one day you're laughing at 2 a.m. about conspiracy theories, and the next you're strangers with shared Wi-Fi history. His message was simple. Hey man, in town for the weekend. Wanna grab lunch? I stared at it way too long. Old me would have made an excuse. Busy. Family thing. Laundry emergency. But this week wasn't about making excuses. It was about honesty. So I texted back. Sure, but fair warning. I'm brutally honest these days. Lol sounds fun, he replied. Lunch. We met at this hipster burger joint where the menus were written on reclaimed wood, and the fries cost more than my dignity. Brian looked older. Same messy hair, same goofy grin. But something was heavier in his eyes. We ordered. We bullshitted about surface stuff, jobs, weather, Wow, we're so old, haha. Then, because I'm a menace to social norms now, I said. You know, it's kinda weird how we just stopped talking. Brian blinked. Not expecting that. Yeah, he said slowly. I guess life just got busy. I shrugged. Life's always busy. We just stopped making room. He fiddled with his fries. I thought you were mad at me, he said finally, after I bailaid on your birthday that year. I laughed. Short, bitter. I was mad for, like, a week. Then it was just easier to not talk than to deal with it. Silence. Kind of silence that feels like wadding through wet cement. Then he said, I missed you, dude, honestly. And I, shocking even myself, said, I missed you too, even though you're the human embodiment of a canceled Hot Pocket. He laughed, choked on his soda, and for a second it was college again. We stayed for 2 hours. Talked for real. No performative updates. No pretending everything was fine when it was. Not everything could be fixed in one lunch. Some cracks stay cracks. But maybe, just maybe, some friendships are worth filling in the gaps anyway. Day 7, the honesty hack, saving a colleague's ass. Monday hit like a truck. Rainy, miserable, caffeine deficient. I got to the office early, hopping to mentally prepare for a week of meetings where circling back would be said no less than 47 times. Instead, I found Priya packing near my desk, clutching a flash drive like it contained state secrets. You're good at, like, not bullshitting, right? She blurted. That's my whole brand now, I said, sipping coffee that tasted suspiciously like burnt rubber. Good, I need you. Apparently, Priya had been working on a presentation for a big client, a $1 million account. The PowerPoint was finished. The meeting was at 2 p.m. But her boss had added some last-minute tweaks that, in Priya's words, make less sense than a drunk toddler trying to explain taxes. She needed someone to sanity check it. And fast. The review. I sat with her for an hour, going through slide by slide. The deck was rough. Buzzword soup. Half-formed ideas. Graphics that looked like they were made in MS Paint at gunpoint. Old me would have sugarcoated it. Looks good, maybe just tweak a few things. New me said, this slide reads like a ransom note. This graphic makes me want to claw my eyes out. This conclusion sounds like you gave up halfway through a panic attack. Priya looked like she wanted to murder me around slide 6. But by slide 20, she was laughing through her stress. Okay, you're right, she said, reworking a chart. God, how did I think this was good? Stress brain, I said, makes everything look shiny until you step back. Together, we rebuilt the deck. Stronger. Clearer. No bullshit. The meeting. At 2 p.m., we presented. Well, she presented. I lurked in the back like a proud, caffeinated goblin. Priya crushed it. Clean. Confident. No buzzword diarrhea. The client nodded, smiled, and by the end, shook her hand so hard it looked like they were trying to start a lawnmower. Later, Priya found me by the elevators. You saved my ass, she said, grinning. No, you saved my career. I shrugged, pretending to be cooler than I felt. Just told the truth, I said. Yeah, well, sometimes the truth is the difference between eating ramen for dinner and affording therapy. Fair point. Personal tally after days 6-7. 1 revived old friendship, Brian. 1 saved client account, Priya. 0 HR complaints, miraculously. 1 internal feeling of, hey, maybe I don't suck at life. Feeling. Raw. Reconnected. Maybe hopeful. Final thoughts, quick and dirty. 1 week of saying exactly what I thought. No sugarcoating, no fake smiles. Here's the damage. Lost a couple of fake friends. Reconnected with an old one, hi Brian. Saved a coworker's butt, Priya owes me beer. Survived multiple awkward dinners. Real talk. Being honest felt amazing, until it didn't. Some people couldn't handle it. Some moments needed a filter, and yeah, sometimes silence is smarter. But overall, worth it. I'm not gonna keep dropping truth bombs like I'm in an emotional war zone, but I'm done lying just to make people comfortable. If you're tired of fake connections, try it. Just maybe, pack some emotional band-aids.